What is up, Birdie? My name is Alan Achilles. I am a freelance photographer here in New York, and today I'm going to be showing you the behind the scenes of a product shoot that I did today. So let's get to it. Hello everybody. First of all, you guys might be curious why there are a ton of discs on my desk, and I will get to that later, but this is what we're shooting today. So I am shooting these Nike shoes. I really like their product. I'm not actually being paid by them or being sponsored by them. Don't get that impression. I do not have a paid partnership with Nike. Now, I wish I had, but I do not. I just really like their shoes, and if Nike, if you're watching this, talk to me. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I'm just going to be doing some long exposures to get a cool background, and then after that we're going to go over it in Photoshop, and I will show you everything you need to do there involving with masking. Now, if you guys don't have Photoshop, leave down in the comments and I will do similar things, but instead of using Photoshop, which is a paid program, I will be using GIMP, which is a free alternative. Now, this video, I don't want it to be so long, so I'm only going to be showing Photoshop, but if you guys feel like you want to see both Photoshop and GIMP, know that my videos are going to be longer, but if you guys are going to learn from it, that's all that matters. Okay, now let's get to it. So my idea is I will pull up a blue wallpaper, like there is right now, and then with like a 10-second long exposure or something, I will drag it behind the shoe to get a cool beam of light, and then after that, I will stack my phone up with 6 discs to get an even, so you can see my phone is 6 discs or just about tall, and if there's a tiny gap, I'll show you how you can fix that in Photoshop. So then instead of just doing this, which would still work, but once we get to the next 6 discs, oh yeah, by the way, I'm also going to be changing to a red wallpaper just to give it a little bit of different colors, you know. So after that, I'm going to put you guys might not be able to see this. You guys, okay, here you go. I'm gonna put this heavy glass and rest my phone on it, and after that, I'm gonna drag it behind the shoe like that, and then after that, I'm gonna go back to the blue. Make sure you get some full screen, because if you do this in the long exposure, the menu is going to show up as well. I will show some examples of that because people messaged me and then they'll show up in the long exposure. Okay, so then we'll stack it up again for shoot. Okay, so it's going to be another 6 discs, and then I'm going to do that. Make sure you don't drop your phone because that is the most expensive part here. And then yeah, usually we'll just do that. So let's start taking the photo. Okay, so right now I'm shooting with a Nikon D50-600 and a kit lens, and what I am doing, and like I said, I'm zoomed in all at 55, at least that's the kit lens for Nikon. Canon, it's probably different, same as Sony, Fuji, Leica, all the other camera brands, Panasonic, they're all different. But for Nikon, it's 18-55, and I'm zoomed in all the way to 55. Now, my camera settings are 10 seconds, and I'm a single point out of focus, and I will show you how to do that now. And right before we do that, I just want to make sure you guys know that I'm also and this is really important, because we'll go back to shooting manual before, I'm at a relatively high aperture, to make sure that the entire part of the shoes are in focus. So if I have like a 3.5, maybe this is not perfectly in focus, but this is, or this is perfectly in focus, but this is not. You see, because it doesn't narrow down the depth of field. And also because I do have this is day, and I have a very bright window which is lighting me right now, and that is still going onto the shoes. Now that is actually, for me, I like that because it's giving some light into the shoes instead of just having light from the behind of the shoes. And that's why I picked this specific time to shoot. I'm doing pretty much a super budget, and that is exactly why I'm using natural light and a phone, which everyone has. So now that we got that all clear, let's go over the how to get to single point autofocus in Nikon cameras. Okay, so this is just zoomed into my D5600, so let's turn it on. And as you can see, let me retract the lens so it actually works. I'm going to switch to the live view, and if you don't know how that is, you just right next to your mode dial right here, there is a switch here saying with LV. You flick that, and that's on live view. I actually do not have a memory card on this, but I will put that on later. But essentially what this live view will do is that it will see exactly what you're doing. I'm doing this as demonstration purposes. You should probably be using your viewfinder, but I'm just doing it so you guys can see exactly what I'm looking at. Since my camera, I do not have a recorder to record the live view because I do not have a mirrorless camera. So what I am currently using is I'm using single point autofocus. As you can see here, I'm moving the autofocus point. It's the red box, and then I tap to focus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, if you're not switched to single point autofocus, you're going to go to the eye. And you can be, so this is full time, or you can just be in single. I'm actually going to switch to single because we don't have a moving subject, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go to AF area mode, and I can switch to face priority. We don't have a human, so it does not really matter. We can switch to normal area AF, or we can switch to wide area AF, as well as 3D subject tracking. But for this example, I'm just doing normal area AF. That might be the default. I'm not sure. I think the default might also be face priority, but I'm pretty sure it's normal area AF. So once you have that selected, just half press your shutter, and then you're going to go back. I'm going to focus exactly on the sneaker here. Perfect. I'm going to zoom in. In fact, I'm going to adjust my tripod because it is not exactly pointed at the sneaker. Now, I do have all of this extra background, but I will fix that in post. In fact, I'm going to move it a tiny bit this way. There you go. You can be using this, you can be doing this handheld, but just so I have the same exact shot, I recommend getting a tripod. They're very inexpensive. If you want to save some money, you can get the cheapest one on Amazon. I have one of those, and it did not last very long. I had to switch, so I just have a bit more expensive, a bit more sturdy tripod here. So I know for sure it's not gonna fall, and I can trust that it's gonna stand stable. So now let's start getting set up for the shot. Okay, everybody, so here we are in the computer. So I have the 3 images I took. So here is the second one, and here you can see the discs sliding through, barely. And I don't know what this extra light is, but it's there. And yeah, this is the red beam, and then this is the third blue beam, and here you can clearly see. Now the images right now might look pretty bad, because they're not merged together. Now I'm going to show you how you can do that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, let's just have this be the main layer that we stack all the images above. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock this. I'm going to hit this lock. I'm going to unlock the layer, so it says layer 0 instead of just wrap background. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this. It doesn't matter if it's unlocked or locked. We just have to drag it over here and place it on top. And it might look bad, but then you can just grab the move tool and just make sure it's perfectly centered. And since you took it from the same camera, hopefully from the same form factor, it should be about the same. So now they're not completely stacked to each other, but don't worry, we're gonna get to that later. Now I'm gonna drag the third image and just put it on top, and then I'm gonna center it. Okay, so what are we gonna do now? So there's something called the mask tool, which is this right here, that if you, here I'm gonna show you an example. If you I'm gonna do it with this layer. If I hit that button, nothing happens, right? But this layer, this extra white thing comes up. Now if I grab the brush tool right here, and I'm gonna make it a tiny bit bigger. By the way, I'm pressing the bracket keys to make it bigger or smaller. So I'm gonna make it relatively big so you guys can see the difference. So now I'm gonna just do this. Oh wait, right, I did it wrong. You want to make sure that you have, so it's on white, so we're drawing white on white right now, so obviously it's not going to show up anything, right? But if you click X on your keyboard, and I'm teaching you the how to do it with your keyboard because it's significantly faster than just going around here and then doing that. But you can do that if you don't memorize all the things, which I didn't at first. So, and now that we're drawing white and black, essentially what it's going to do is it's going to erase this layer and it's going to replace it with the other. So you see how, since the shoes are in the same spot, they didn't move at all. So they're not changing, but the background is. And that's how we're going to do this effect. So I'm going to do Control Z. And I'm going to bring this relatively very small. And actually, we could do this a different way. If I delete this mask. Delete layer mask. I could have just clicked on it and clicked the delete button on your keyboard. But if you grab the pen tool right here, and you just draw a straight line from where it ends to here, and then just bring it off to the side. Actually, make sure I made a big mistake. I'm gonna do Control Z a bunch of times, and I'm gonna make sure that my hand does not show up. There you go. So, and after this, you're gonna do make selection. Feather, you can have 0 pixels. I'm gonna do 1 just to make it a bit more even, because the light was a slight bit different. And what I'm gonna do is so you're just gonna click the same button, you click here. And right now it did the opposite. It actually got rid of the thing that you wanted to keep. So what you're gonna do is you could do the invert, or you could do Control I, and that inverts it. So now, as you can see, it's clearly there. So it's done. I made a big mistake here, and I left some space in between that. But if you took the time, which I should have taken my time to make sure I didn't do that, you would have probably been able to get it perfectly even. And if not, you could fix it up in post. And something I could actually do is bring the picture down a little bit. And let's see if I can do that without like ruining the photo. So something you could do is to make it be able to move it with your arrows and your key, do Control T. Make sure you click on the layer, not the mask. Control T, and that's gonna affect the entire image. Now, if you bring it down by a tiny bit, the mask is not gonna change. So there's gonna be a point where you see the shoe is not gonna be aligned, right? But if you do let me just check this. If you did the opposite, so let me delete this layer mask. So now it's just back to where we were before. If you were to do a mask around this entire shoe, which I can do if you want, I will do a time lapse of me doing it. Okay, so now I finished the edit. As you can see how many times I did it. I did a kind of a pretty rough mask. Like, I didn't do it super detailed. That was like maybe 30 seconds of work, but yeah, I did it super quickly. I didn't pay much attention for the sake of the time of this tutorial. I wanted this to be relatively quickly, so that's why I'm doing this. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click. By the way, make sure you're right clicking. Don't just click. I forgot to mention that earlier. Then I'm gonna do make selection. Do feather radius of 1 pixels,
You can do 0. It's really up to you. It depends how accurate you did it. So I'm gonna do OK. And now I'm gonna just mask it like we did before, and then gonna do Control I. And you can see how I didn't do it perfectly, and you can see some of the. I can easily get rid of this with the brush tool. Let me just make it really small. But yeah, I'm just going to Control I in the mask, and now I'm gonna not do to the mask, but to the entire picture. I'm gonna do Control T, and I'm gonna bring it down here. And something that you can do now, you can adjust it based on where your shoe is. So you can, what I highly recommend is with this, you see this fill. No, not the fill, the opacity. I mean, you can bring that down a tiny bit by just dragging the opacity thing down and just making sure that those parts are painted. So you gotta grab your brush tool, make sure you're selected on the mask and not the picture, because then you'll actually draw black in the picture. So yeah, let me. Alright, so for zoomed out, it's not very noticeable. If you're posting this on Instagram just to show off your skills, it looks a lot better. But now I'm gonna do I'm gonna do the pen thing for the red, and I will just do a time lapse to skip to when I finish. Okay, yeah, this is a bit harder to work around, the fact that it's in two sides and it's not like over here that you could just go over, which in fact actually this part okay, yeah, this is a bit more harder to work around, but again, if you got a tiny bit more right, that would have been different. The crop to like right about just about the shoe, right there, and then we don't want this part of my desk to show, so we just do this, and then we click done. And then in fact, actually, we could do a tiny bit more cropping of the shoes. Just do that, and then of this, as well as the. So we're cropping quite heavily here, but yeah, and then we still have a tiny bit in the room. Again, I would probably go back and do this in Lightroom, but you guys might not have Lightroom, so I 100% understand that. If you guys just have Photoshop, you guys would do like brightness and contrast, do like that to the very top so it affects all the layers. Yeah, by the way, the layers, the way that this stuff and pretty much every other editing thing is, what is on top is going to show, and what is on bottom is not going to show over the thing that's on top. That's how masking and all this works. So I'm going to increase the contrast by a tiny bit, brightness by actually decreasing brightness, and then grab another, let's do hue and brightness, add saturation to those colors. Whoa, okay, I just realized something. This is messed up, this layer. And also the eyeballs can make you check that, and you can still have a. Let me go back to the hue and saturation. Okay, let's have the hue be a bit more. Oh yeah, and here you can actually change the colors, so you can make it be like this, or like Like it looks like a complete party. It's kind of funny. You can have it be like this, like this, like this. You can see this is the fun thing about Photoshop. You can't really do this in Lightroom, that you can like change the entire colors in the entire photo, and this is like the hue of the entire thing. So let's bring this back to 0 to get the exact colors. Master, let's bring it back to the reds, and you can make this like a cyan or something like that, and let's make it so it's a bit more red. Let's do blues. We just like an actual, because this is kind of, at just 0 it's kind of white ish. Here it's kind of making it more of a blue color. So yeah, this is the photo. You could have spent a bit more time on it to get rid of this gap, but it's fine. I think the photo looks great. In fact, to this, also another trick, this is clearly a bit more warm. So this is the bottom image. So the bottom image, I'm gonna add a where is color balance, I think is it. And if you hit this, it doesn't really matter, but if I was like another layer, and if you don't, let's say you have other layers below here, you don't want this, you just want this to affect the layer straight below you, you can click this button and it will only affect that layer. It doesn't really matter for this picture since there's none, but you can make it a bit more or less noticeable, if that makes sense. Okay, so in fact, to even this out even more, I'm going to grab the masking tool here, and I'm going to grab the brush. I'm going to zoom in a tiny bit and make sure here it actually matters if you have hardness at 0 to blend it up. Oh, Control Z to blend it a bit more. I'm going to do X, so you're painting stuff on. I'm blending it like this. And now here it's significantly less noticeable that there was an overlapped image. So yeah, that's the final image. I'm gonna, in fact, actually something you could do, in fact here I actually messed up. Something you could do is if you grab onto the brush, and this is actually painting just color, and you select the layer that is masked, so this. If you can see this, so if you see this color and you want to paint it over, if you click Alt and you can select that color, right? And then if you paint it, you can get the exact same color to an extent. I don't know how, sometimes this will work really well and it can save you, but other times it can actually ruin your image. Now this time I actually feel that it is maybe ruining our image. I don't know if it's that noticeable, but it might just be that one small ray of light that is going in. Yeah, this is going to be a very long tutorial because I keep talking, right? So yeah, I'm sorry if this ends up being long, but I'm a relatively new YouTuber, so I'm not the greatest at making YouTube videos short. So yeah, this is a bit better. I still think that you'd be better off with just doing it right.
Okay, so that is it for the video. We got an amazing image, in my opinion, for you guys. It's probably going to be your first image, and you guys are going to be really proud. Now don't get cocky and feel like you guys are going to be professionals, because I did that at the beginning and I felt like, yeah, I'm going to start DMing a bunch of clients. Now that might be a very good strategy to get you clients. You do want to make sure that the skill is there before you do that though. I did this and obviously I didn't get any clients at the beginning, but you see, now when I'm getting more and more into photography and doing more things, I'm getting better and better. Now I still do not make as much money as the pros, but it still sets you in the right direction which you want to go. Now, if you like this video and you want to see more content like this in the future, consider liking and subscribing. I will be having many videos in the future, hopefully every week, and they're going to be about portraits, landscape photography, more product photography, just cool, fun shoots that is just a fun idea to try with your friends or your photography friends. So yeah, thank you for clicking on this video, thank you for watching all the way through, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.